My name's Eben Upton, and I'm one of the founders of Raspberry Pi.
So today you're releasing a new Raspberry Pi. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, today we're releasing this. This is a Raspberry Pi 3. It looks a lot like a Raspberry Pi 2 or a Raspberry Pi B+, but we've made a few changes. So we've increased the processor performance again. So we're now about 50 to 60% faster than a Raspberry Pi 2, or about 10 times as fast as a Raspberry Pi 1. So this device is 10 times the speed of the thing we were shipping in January last year. We've gone from a 32-bit to a 64-bit core. So we've gone from an ARM Cortex-A7 to an ARM Cortex-A53. We've added integrated connectivity, so we've added 82.11n wireless LAN and Bluetooth 4. So that's Bluetooth Classic and also the Bluetooth Low Energy, which I guess people are going to find useful for IoT projects.
Okay, so this is the first 64-bit Raspberry Pi. So tell me why moving to 64-bit is important.
Well, we're primarily, although this is a 64-bit core, on day one we're only going to be running 32-bit code, so we're still running Raspbian, which is our ARM v6 32-bit operating system. I think there are some benefits to 64-bit, primarily in bringing kind of a broader range of operating systems on here. We are really hoping we're going to lure Red Hat onto here. We know Red Hat are real 64-bit true believers. In terms of whether we're going to move our operating system to 64-bit, we're going to want to see a real benefit. We actually still, although Raspberry Pi 2 is an ARM v7 platform, we're primarily shipping ARM v6 code. We're shipping one ARM v6 code base that runs across the entire sort of historical and price range of Raspberry Pi. I guess I'm a little skeptical as to whether we're going to see that value, but we'll be doing some experiments this year, and we'll find out.
It'll be interesting to find out.
Primarily, we like Cortex-A53 because it's a better 32-bit processor than A7. That was our main driver for moving to 53.
So can you tell me a bit about the new processor you're using? Is it a direct evolution from the previous Raspberry Pi processors, or is this something new?
Yeah, this is a direct evolution of the Broadcom SoC we're using. It's called BCM2837. It's a direct evolution from 2836, which we used in Pi 2, and then from 2835, which we used in Pi 1, and which we're using in Pi 0. They all retain the same kind of, the guts of the chip are the same, and then we're incrementally adding new cores onto the side. But the nice thing about taking this approach, you see complete backwards compatibility. So there's no compatibility break between Pi 1 and Pi 2, no compatibility break between Pi 2 and Pi 3.
So binary blobs compiled for Pi 1 will still work on this new Pi 3?
Yep, same thing.
That's awesome. So the new board, as you said, has both Wi-Fi and Bluetooth low energy. So why support both? Why both radios on there?
I guess if you look at what people do with Raspberry Pi, there's a group of people using Raspberry Pi as a PC, and there's a group of people using Raspberry Pi as an embedded system. And for each of those groups of people, both those connectivity technologies are important. So for people using Raspberry Pi as a PC, wireless LAN is how you get to the network, and Bluetooth is how you talk to your peripherals. So we're expecting a lot more people to using Bluetooth, Bluetooth keyboard, Bluetooth mouse with Raspberry Pi in that PC world. In the embedded systems world, it's kind of very similar actually. Wireless is how you get out to the network, and then Bluetooth is how you talk to your peripherals. But in the embedded world, peripherals doesn't mean mouse and keyboards. Peripherals means distributed sensors. So we're expecting to see a lot of people using Raspberry Pi as a kind of a hub, an IoT hub. So this is the thing, it's out there, it's either connected to your network by wired Ethernet or via Wi-Fi, and then it has a cloud of generally BLE sensors around it.
Sometimes forgotten after the broad success of the Pi, the main aim of the foundation is, of course, education. How does this new board support that role?
Well, I guess a couple of ways. One way, of course, the goal of Raspberry Pi is to provide cheap, open computing platforms to people. If you make a better open computing platform at the same low price, then that's good for education. So that kind of is a given. We do think that IoT thing is one of the real surprises for us with Raspberry Pi. What surprises for me as a software engineer with Raspberry Pi is the extent to which the exciting things kids do with them are physical computing projects and hacking projects. And so we have this suspicion that kids are going to do exciting IoT type projects, and we have a suspicion that the connectivity stuff adds more value than you'd expect from an educational point of view.
Okay. So how do you yourself see the new capabilities getting used?
I think people are going to use it as an IoT hub. I think people are going to use it, continue to use it as a PC. There's a sort of a feeling that this 50 to 60% has moved us over some sort of line. It's moved us over a line where it becomes a much more credible PC replacement. So we see people doing that. I guess all the things people do with the Pi at the moment, but more. And having that the integrated connectivity is weird because you've always been able to add Wi-Fi. We have an official Wi-Fi dongle. There are a lot of unofficial Wi-Fi dongles and Bluetooth adapters. You've always been able to add this functionality to the Pi, but having it built in so you can assume everyone's got it, I think that's going to make a difference somehow.
So the form factor in the new board is more or less identical to the Pi 2. More or less. Was that seen as important? Yeah,
it's really important. Obviously, the when you say more or less, what you mean is the LEDs have moved. We had to move the LEDs because we needed board real estate for the antenna that's on the side there. I think it is important. A lot of people have got very used to this form factor now, the mounting hole positions, the connector positions, the ability to put it in certain sorts of cases. We expect that most cases, although the LEDs have obviously moved, most cases should continue to fit the device. So we don't want to be in a situation where every time we're releasing a new product, we're orphaning a whole bunch of ecosystem which is dependent on the form factor.
So, new board, where does this leave the original Model B, which I think you're still producing?
Yeah, so the original Model B is still in production for a very small number of industrial customers who make sort of infrequent large orders. It leaves the B in production. I'm not sure how much longer the B will be in production while people want it. I'm not honestly sure. It's been nearly 2 years now since we launched the B+. I'm not honestly sure how long people are going to want the B for. It leaves the B+ in production. Obviously the B+ is now $25, so the B+ has a differentiated place in the world, and that will stay there. The 2B will stay in production, although I suspect people will transition very quickly. There won't be any price change for 2B. So I suspect people will move pretty quickly to 3B. So I suspect B+ will outlive, Pi 1B+ will outlive Pi 2B.
So today's board is a Model B, which historically has been the with Ethernet board. Do you see a place for Model A Pi 3 perhaps? That makes the Wi-Fi makes it more useful, I think.
Yeah, there will be a model. There are kind of two missing products lurking in the Raspberry Pi roadmap. It's Compute Module 2 and Pi 2A. What happened to those? They were both killed by the demand for Pi 2, which ate all our chips, and then the imminence of Pi 3. So by the time we got to a point where we could launch a 2A or a CM2, it was very close to being an obsolete product. We didn't want to drop obsolete product on people. There will be a 3A. There will be a Compute Module 3.
So this board is produced in Wales alongside all your other boards. How is the capacity in the plant split between these various different SKUs now?
At the moment, the vast majority of the capacity in the Welsh factory is going to 3. Is going to the kind of production ramp for 3, and that's been the case for the last few weeks, and it'll probably be the case through March and April. They can build about 100,000 a week, so we think we can get on top of demand, and there's a good component pipeline, so we think we can get on top of demand. In general, it's if you look at the split between the Pi 2, say the split last year between the Pi 2 and the B+, Pi 2 was 80 to 90% of the production capacity, and B+ was 10 to 20%. Zero's also built there. Zero uses comparatively little production line capacity, right? Because it doesn't use any, it doesn't have any through-hole components, so it doesn't use any wave solder capacity. It's a single-sided board, so it doesn't use that much oven capacity, and it has fairly few. It has a fairly small number of components on it, so it's not using a lot of pick-and-place capacity. So they go through in panels of 20. So they're designed to be very, very quick to manufacture. So they can kind of fit in around the edges. There isn't a lot of production capacity for Zero this month and sort of February, March. Not a lot of production capacity for Zero, but we expect we're going to be able to keep fitting Zero in around 3B for the rest of the year.
I mean, there's been a real shortage of supply for the Pi Zero. Do you see a similar sort of thing happening to the new Pi 3?
Yeah, but probably for a shorter period. So the pipeline for 3 is much stronger because we're expecting to do much larger numbers. We can do 100,000 a week of Pi 3 pretty much forever from a standing start.
You said you're anticipating larger numbers. Does that mean you were surprised by the reaction to the Pi Zero?
Yeah, I think we were surprised by the reaction to the Pi Zero. We built we built a lot of Pi Zeros, and then we sold them all, and now we're building more. They always surprise us. I always have this sort of feeling that if we one day there'll be a product which we have enough of, and then it won't sell. Right, and so we're always quite cautious. I think 3 probably represents us, because we know it's a great product, right? 3 represents us kind of like leaning forwards as hard as we've ever leant forwards, and I think we'll get away with it.
So for a long time, there really wasn't any viable competition for a single board market for the Pi. Do you think that's changed?
I think we're seeing more stuff at about the price of a Pi. Right, that's the big thing that's changed, is that we've gone from a world where people are we went from a world before the Pi where everything cost $100, kind of to a world for 2 or 3 years where there was the Pi at 25, 35, and then there were a bunch of people in the sort of 40 to 60 kind of range. I think we're now starting to see people actually seriously trying to get into the price range of the Pi. So that's been a change. Yeah.
I guess I'd say your main competitors are Next&Co's chip and the newer Pine 64 board, which started shipping their Kickstarter backers last week, I believe.
Right.
What do you think of these boards?
I think they're both great. It's nice to see people exploring kind of the space around the low cost space and trying to offer different feature sets. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to getting my hands on either of those. Yeah, it's fun. I think we still think we're making good products, right? It'll be good to see how those fit into the world.
Do you think your competitors aren't really? Do you think they're sort of addressing a slightly different market than you are?
Well, I think that the nice thing that's happening is everyone's picking different feature sets. So you've got kind of like a map of different sorts of things you can try and build, and everyone's trying to build a different thing rather than just homing in. I think probably was 1 or 2 of the ones we saw in the first couple of years. What we saw were people just homing onto the feature set that Pi had, coming up with product names which were strongly reminiscent of the Pi's product name. And so it's kind of nice. It's nice from my point of view. It's nice that people are trying different things. It's nice that people are trying to come up with their own brands. That's really nice.
So today is the Raspberry Pi's 4th birthday. Mm-hmm. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's our first birthday. Yeah, we're maintaining because it's the 29th of February. We're maintaining this is our first birthday. So we've come a very long way in a year.
That's properly geeky.
Yeah, that is really geeky.
So what are your...
Not as geeky. So we launched on the 29th of February, and of course what we realised, we could have waited 2 weeks, exactly 2 weeks would have taken us to Pi Day, and we didn't even really ship any Raspberry Pis for the first couple of weeks after we launched. So it would have been costless for us to launch on Pi Day. But 29th of February is at least a memorable day, and it's nice that it's a Monday today. So it's nice because it's easy to launch products on, for a variety of IT-related reasons. It's easy to launch products on Mondays, so it's kind of convenient that our anniversary has come around on the best day of the week.
So what are your thoughts then, 4 years in?
We've sold 8 million units. So that's the other thing that we're announcing today. So we kind of got 3 things today, right? It's our 4th birthday, and we've sold 8 million Raspberry Pis, and we've got a new Raspberry Pi for people. It's just weird that it's weird to still be doing it. It's weird to be doing it professionally, right? So it's weird that we have an office, we have an office around us, and that we've got employees, and an organisation that's doing this. It's kind of weird that we've been able to do the idea, it's an educational device, right? And the idea was always that the device was a contribution. That was our contribution, was to make the device. And of course, what's happened is because we've been able to sell a lot of them, we've actually got some resources, and we've been able to go and hire people in the foundation to go and write educational resources. And we've got there's a whole infrastructure there that we've been able to create because of the Raspberry Pi success that we never thought we were going to be able to do. So that's nice. And it's great to be manufacturing in the UK. I guess that's a nice that's a nice thing, and something we'd hoped to do and then became dispirited about and felt that we couldn't do, and then after we launched found we could do, and to be able to manufacture the vast majority of these in the UK, particularly in Wales, because from Wales originally, particularly in Wales, is really fantastic news.
So did you ever think you were still going to be doing this 4 years then?
No. I mean, we thought we were going to make. I actually came across a friend of mine sent me a copy of a business plan for Raspberry Pi that I wrote in 2009 yesterday, and I'd completely forgotten they existed. And you look at it, and it has these things where we talk about, like, we want to have some forums. We want to have 1,000 people, and maybe 100 people who are really into it, and maybe 10 who post regularly on the forums. And we with something like, we have like 1.5 million forum posts or something on the Raspberry Pi forums. So yeah, I think we thought of this as a kind of, it was going to be a low volume thing, and it was going to be a one shot or a two shot kind of thing. So yeah, to be doing it continuously, and then to be seeing the things appear in production in various environments. The number of companies that are using them. You bump into people. I was at a conference in Austin last week, and I bumped into a bunch of people who are, from big corporates, who were saying, "Oh yeah, we use them in production. Yeah, Raspberry Pi. We use them in production for this, and we use them in production for that." And every time there's a company who said, every time we acquire a new company, we drop a bunch of Raspberry Pis into their network in order to basically audit what's there, because nobody knows what's on their network, right? And so we use these as network, and it's all of these kind of things where they're being used, and we don't even know about it until we bump into somebody. So it's odd.
So what's the most surprising thing you've been told that people are using a Raspberry Pi for during the last 4 years?
In the last 4 years, most surprising thing. Let's see, most surprising industrial thing. I mean, I think that those network instrumentation things are pretty. It's all the ones where people have. The big surprise for me has been there's always been a world of single board computers for industrial control, right? And the big surprise for me was how fast Raspberry Pi became better than those, right? That they're often quite expensive, and they're special purpose, and they have all these features, and they have a brochure that tells you why they're great. And the companies that make them sell 10, 20, 50,000 a year, maybe. And something that sells 10 or 20 or 50,000 never really is out of prototype. By our standards, is never really out of prototype. Right, and so what was really surprising was how fast the Raspberry Pi became the right thing for a very, very broad collection of these kind of DIY embedded. We kind of call them DIY embedded. I own a factory, and they're not being embedded into a product which is then sold. It's somebody who's solving their own problem, often at sort of fairly reasonable scale, but they're doing themselves. Yeah.
So finally, then, where now?
Well, we don't talk about unannounced products. I mean, there we are. That's the biggest change. That's the biggest, and all the years has been one of these wonderful changes for Raspberry Pi, and that's the biggest, saddest change, right, is that I can't tell you. Obviously we're going to try and do more cool stuff. We've got. You've seen us grow from an organisation that could just about make a single board computer to one that's done a second generation computer to one that's got wireless now. Wireless has been the team here, Roger and James here in particular, have had an enormous effort getting wireless done. So we're kind of growing a team that can do more and more and more cool stuff. There are things we aren't big enough to do. We'd struggle to make a cell phone. There's a kind of hierarchy of difficulty, right? And we're not at the top of the hierarchy of difficulty yet. So I don't think you're going to see a Raspberry Pi cell phone anytime soon. But yeah, we're going to try and I think we're just going to try and keep making incrementally better products of a similar sort, and we'll see where we get to.
Thanks for talking to us.
Cool.